Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about Microsoft 365 backup and restore service, right? So this service is recently been launched by Microsoft, which is part of Microsoft 365 product ecosystem. And Microsoft is bringing this capability to Microsoft customers in order to back up their data, and it can be utilized to restore later, right? So I'm going to walk you through all the steps or all the pros and cons, and maybe why we should go with the Microsoft 365 backup service, right? Okay, so let's jump on. So before that, you might be asking or wondering what is Microsoft 365 backup service is all about, right? So so in definition wise, it is a service which is dedicated for uh, solutions that is going to keep the backup regularly, right? And the data which is part of Microsoft 365 ecosystem across emails and OneDrive and SharePoint and Teams data. So all of those services are equipped together, and it is simply backing up all those data in one store at one place, right? And it is going to store that data in a one backup service or a separate location where we are going to keep that data as a backup for future reference or future usage, right? There is another question or thought, maybe it would be like native service or backup service, right? So why or which service it is all about, right? So the Microsoft 365 backup service is going to be providing a another data copy of each of data sets like Exchange and SharePoint and Teams and OneDrive, right? So all of those are the different data sets would be created in the backup servers or backup locations, and that can be utilized for the future reference, right? But what exactly it triggers and when and why it triggers in order to back up the data from these workloads? Even these are the cloud workloads, right? And we as a customer, we are using, or if we are using backup services, or if you are not using, then do I really need to back up my data? Do I really need to make a copy of any data that is stored specifically on Teams or SharePoint or any other location or any of the workloads, right? So it can provide us a data retention capabilities along with the recycle bins and version histories, right? And the current capabilities that Microsoft has, those are kind of one layer of capabilities, and that is why this backup and restore service is going to be a game changer, or is going to be an additional capability for us to utilize, right? Also, it is going to provide us long-term protection along with the compliance and recovery in a situations or serious incidents like ransomware attacks and all of those situations, right? So that is when the backup and restore is going to be the key here to move ahead with it, right? The next question would be, why is Microsoft 365 backup service important for us, right? So there are different key aspects to it. The first aspect is incidental or accidental deletion of data. When there's a data which was lost or deleted by human errors, or maybe people have deleted that data accidentally, and that data is no longer available, right? And that data was important for team and business, and that is why this is going to be very useful, right? And this is a situation where if business doesn't have data, that means they cannot, maybe they would be able to build that data over the period of time, but they don't have that data readily used and available to bring that backup and start their operations as soon as possible, right? The second is malicious activity, which is internal threats, phishing or ransomware can also be compromising the data, right? And that is why the backup is going to provide us clean and uncorrupted versions of data that we can bring back into the operations and we can use it for our regular business or regular operations to run faster, right? The third is Microsoft has its own model, which is shared responsibility model, right? That does clarify that Microsoft manages infrastructure and uptime, and the data protection is also available there. But at certain point, there are some capabilities that we as a customer or end users, we should have our data backed up somewhere so that we can bring it back when needed, right? So it's kind of on demand, but at initial stage it might not be feeling like, do I really need to back up my data as I'm using pure cloud services, right? So that would be a question. But definitely there is a need of data backup, and there are situations like when we see a lot of incidents are happening across different regions or countries and locations, right? And that is when the clean and dedicated backup service is going to be a game changer and very be useful, right? So there are certain features and capabilities of backup service which we are talking about, which is Microsoft 365 backup service, which has automated backup service or automated backup capability, which does regular backup, automated snapshots of all 365 data and different workloads that are part of our backup plan or backup service, right? Also, other capabilities includes granular recovery capability, which allows us to restore individual files, emails, conversations, and entire workload as well. So, workload is going to be SharePoint or Teams or OneDrive or Exchange, right? So, all of those are different workloads, and those are going to allow us to restore quickly as soon as possible. The extended retention period can also be kept and set up for the longer period of data that we wanted to keep or retain for our requirements or organizational policies or requirements, right? And that is going to allow us to keep a retention on that data, and that can be used in the future. It also provides the ransomware protection. It protects the data from those attacks, and then it also keeps the data clean and unencrypted, and that keeps the right appropriate data backup and copies, and that can be used later. Also, it has the compliance support capability, which allows us to back up the data with rules and regulations of the data retention, as well as the compliance for the data that we wanted to keep, be it country specific or region specific or maybe local to that respective state, right? So these are the features that Microsoft 365 backup service does provides, and there are other capabilities as well, which includes uh, the major workloads that I would tell you that it is going to backup, which is Exchange Online, then OneDrive for Business, SharePoint Online, and Microsoft Teams. So these are the major workloads where Microsoft 365 backup service is going to provide us the backing up capability, as well as the restoring those workloads data back to the normal or back to the operations ASAP, right? So popular providers or popular backup service providers to mention here are VM Backup for Microsoft 365, Acronis Cyber Protect, as well as the Barracuda Cloud to Cloud Backup, Dhruva NSYNC, AvePoint Cloud Backup. So these are the few names or few providers who do provide backup services for Microsoft 365. If in case we wanted to bring, or if in case we wanted to onboard backup service on our Microsoft 365 workloads, right? And yeah, I'm going to tell you one more very interesting fact, as well as one more interesting requirement, or maybe there's definitely a decision to make whether to go with it or not, right? And it totally depends on the business requirements and the company requirement and the decision how they are going to make on the data side, right? So while making those decisions, it is very important to know to protect the data. It is recommended to implement additional backup solutions and services specifically designed for that specific purpose. And There are many different service providers, as I mentioned in previous, which includes the Barracuda as well as the Acronis and VM Backup, right? Dhruva InSync. So these are the different providers. They do provide backup solutions for these workloads, and those are very important to bring on board when we wanted to back up the data and restore it whenever needed, right? Also, as I mentioned, there are different features which includes extended retention policy. We can set it to 30 days, 90 days for deleted items, right? And for the data backup service itself, we can store the data for months, years, and longer depending on the needs as well, right? So that is something we can decide and go with that. Also, there is capability for version controls on multiple files, emails, and other data that is stored within the 365 environment across, and that can be used for keeping a different versions of data so that we can bring that data back up when we wanted to get it, and we can use it. There's another capability which is compliance and legal hold, which supports the compliance requirements for retaining data according to the industry regulations, which includes GDPR, HIPAA, and it provides the legal hold capabilities for the same purpose whenever, if it is country specific, region specific again, right? And also it provides the ransomware and malware protection. That's also very important when we wanted to back up the data and restore or regain access on it in the future, right? And the data ownership as well as accessibility, so it does provides the access levels, access permissions on the data, as well as it provides a native recovery process so that we can bring that back and ensure the quick access is provided to the end users across the Microsoft 365 environment for users, right? So that people can simply go ahead and access those data locations, be it SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, and Exchange as well. So these are very important feature capabilities that Microsoft 365 Backup Service provides, along with cross-platform restore as well, and the centralized management for the data backup. So this management capability is for specific for administrators who are going to set up the right set of policies and then initiate restores from central dashboards, and then simplify management of data protection across the organization to make sure the data is protected at the same time during the data is being backed up across the different workloads, right? And yeah, so these are the different things which are most important to know and understand, and then also follow the shared responsibility model when we are going to start the backup and use the backup service in order to back up the data, protect the data, compliance and recovery within the environment, right? And how we can use that data for the future, as well as to bring the operations back from the unwanted or uncertain incidents like ransomware attacks or cyber attacks or any incidents that's going to or that happens, right? So yeah, these are the things, and I'm going to show you where it can be provisioned or activated within the Azure, not Azure, but the Microsoft 365 environment. So let's jump on. I'm on Microsoft 365 Admin Center. You need to go to settings here, and you need to click on Microsoft 365 backup environment or backup section here. Currently, you see, so this is available here, and you see there is no this service available for this specific tenant. But once you have that enabled or applicable, and it is asking me to set up this page, I need to go to this specific page and then enable the configurations for this. Also, you can see there are different capabilities which can back up documents and photos, required roles for setup. And here also we have a subscription, which is pay as you go type of subscription that we can enable or onboard. So let's go ahead on this settings here, and see what it can bring us to enable this one, right? So here you can see we have option to set up pay as you go billing model for this, so that we can start the backup service for all these major workloads. And you might have seen that currently it is only backing up these major workloads, and you don't see the teams here. Why? Because teams is still in development phase. Microsoft is going to bring that once the development and testing is going to happen thoroughly from Microsoft and their partner side, and then Microsoft is going to bring that into the production for customers to onboard the teams backing up our teams backup service, right? So let's jump back and click on syntax settings here. So here you see syntax services for different capabilities that Microsoft is providing. Let's say I wanted to bring document and images, videos, then the storage, and then apps, right? So apps includes SharePoint embedded, and here I need to set up the pay as you go billing, which is add other subscription and pick the service you wanted to turn on. So let's say I'm going to select it here. Here I have an option to select the Azure subscription, and then also I need to select the resource group that I wanted to use for this, and then a specific region where I wanted to store this data. Right. So let's say this one, and if I say I accept the Microsoft syntax pay as you go billing terms of service and save these changes, that means I would be able to bring up or enable the service, and then once the service is enabled I can start the backing up on this tenant of those major workloads. All right. Also you can see there are terms of service, privacy statement, as well as pricing details that we can go through if we wanted to see how it is going to charge us, how it is going to cost us basis on different workloads, different capabilities, different features it is going to provide us, and then we can decide how or what we wanted to back up, what things or what are the capabilities that we are going to use, right? So that is something we should definitely go through first and decide, or maybe there's a decision to make on it, how we can utilize the Microsoft 365 backup service effectively, as Microsoft has provisioned that and made it publicly available for customers to use. And that's really great service to use in cloud, right? So as we set up everything in the cloud, it is going to be available for us to use, right? So yeah, that's all for this video. Hope you like it. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and also share this video in your community and friends circles, and do let them know, and do let them learn something different, right? And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye for now.